Hi, I'm Analia Pucciarella, and welcome to Brightly Becoming. This is a podcast about faith, healing, and becoming the person that you were created to be. It's about the seasons that stretch us, the moments that strip us down, and the quiet, often unseen work of rebuilding stronger, wiser, and more rooted than before. Here, we talk about navigating health struggles in your 20s, trusting your body instead of fighting it, caring for your mind, and regulating your nervous system. This is a space to slow down, to breathe, to feel seen and understood, to reconnect with your faith, and to let your body feel like home again. Whether you're walking through a painful season or simply longing to live a more intentional, grounded life, this space is for you, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Brightly Becoming. Hi, you guys. I've been thinking a lot about something that doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to chronic illness, and that's relationships. Yes, the physical symptoms are hard, the fatigue, the flares, and the unpredictability. But sometimes what feels heavier than the symptoms is the way it impacts your ability to relate to people and the way that people perceive you. You worry that people see you as lazy, so you overthink your effort, and that can easily lead to self-abandonment when you're overcompensating, trying to become the opposite of who you think other people see when they can't even see what's happening inside your body. One of the hardest parts of living with chronic illness as an adult is trying to maintain those relationships while your capacity keeps shifting. For me, my heart wants to show up fully and consistently, but I know that my body has limits. And that tension alone has created a lot of guilt for me. I've noticed this deep need to be perceived as who I know I am, but who others may not be able to see. And it's impossible for someone to perceive you exactly the way you perceive yourself. In a similar way, yes, but not exactly. Living with invisible illness creates this need to show up as good. Because if I can't show up physically the way I used to just last year, then I need to show up perfectly in every other way. And that's just not realistic. 2 years ago, I graduated from college. My life post-grad was so different compared to my life now, and honestly, thank God. But I had a lot more friends. I was meeting friends for lunch, I was working full-time, I was going out on the weekends. So going from that to moving back home with my parents where my friends aren't was a huge change for me. I understand I'm just not at a point in my life where I feel comfortable hanging out or traveling to see friends. The right people who understand have stayed, and the ones who didn't have walked out of my life. And I'm completely okay with that. Not everyone is meant to enter your next season with you. I've also outgrown the desire to drink or go to bars. That scene just doesn't interest me anymore. However, in the beginning, when I couldn't attend something, I'd over-text. If I couldn't host people at my apartment, I'd over-apologize. If I needed to cancel plans, I'd explain it a million times. If I needed a night to myself after feeling burnt out from work, I would feel so guilty, and I was just quietly over-functioning. Last week we talked about self-sabotage and how it shows up when good things occur, but something came up for me recently. Sometimes self-sabotage looks like overextending yourself so no one feels disappointed in you. There's fear underneath it all that says, if I don't perform well, I'll lose this connection, right? But here's the truth I've seen play out in my own life. The right people stay. My boyfriend of 2 years and I have been through most things that people our age haven't because of my health. And I can't even explain how good it feels to be loved at my lowest. And you deserve that too. The nurses at the infusion center that I go to have become the closest thing to best friends in my life. The girl who shadowed me actually at my old job, we were pretty close, but then when I had shared what happened with my health, we got even closer, and to this day we talk every week on the phone and catch up. I love her. I know she's listening. You can still care about people and not want to hurt them. you can still assert your needs. I realized I was wired to equate boundaries with the perception that my needs are too much. And I've associated rest with letting someone down, slow replies with being a bad friend, and needing space as separation. When you live with invisible illness, you already feel like you're inconveniencing people. So you try to minimize that impact. You shrink your needs, you push through, you say yes when your body is clearly telling you no. But that doesn't create deeper connection, it creates exhaustion. I've grieved the version of myself I used to be in relationships. There was a version of me with more stamina, more spontaneity, more flexibility. Letting go of that version has been hard, not because I don't believe I'm still valuable, but because I worry other people might miss that version. And when your illness is invisible, that grief can feel so lonely. Like, people see you walking, talking, functioning, and they assume you're normal, but capacity isn't always visible. It's not like we're just wearing a sign constantly that says, I'm going through this, or I have this. I can't control whether someone fully understands my experience. I can explain it to the best of my ability. I can invite empathy, but I can't force understanding. What I can control is whether I abandon myself to maintain a connection. That's the real tension, because staying connected should not require self-erasure. We feel like we're failing at something we were taught was part of our identity. And maybe connection isn't measured by frequency. Maybe it's measured by being honest. And maybe being a good friend doesn't mean constant availability. Maybe it means showing up as your real self, even when your real self has limits. I've had to ask myself some uncomfortable questions, like, am I checking in because I genuinely want to, or because I'm afraid of this person and I's connection disappearing? Or am I saying yes because I have the energy to do this, or because I'm truly afraid of disappointing this person? Am I trying to over-explain because I value the clarity in the conversation, or is it because I'm trying to earn someone's understanding? Those questions aren't about shame, they're about being aware. And self-abandonment can look almost polite, like very caring and responsible, but it still disconnects you from yourself. Something I'm trying to practice is this: I can care deeply about people and still have limits. I can love fully and still say, I don't have the mental capacity for that right now. I can want to be thoughtful and still rest without having to over-explain myself. And the relationships that are meant to grow with me will adjust. Not perfectly, not overnight, but gradually. If you live with chronic illness and you felt this guilt, this overcompensation, this fear of being seen as lazy, you're not dramatic. You're not difficult. You're just navigating something that's extremely complex. Your body having limits does not make you any less loving or lovable, and your energy having limits does not make you less loyal. And asserting your needs does not mean that you care any less. I'm still learning these things. I still catch myself over-functioning sometimes. But I'm starting to believe that real connection doesn't require me to disappear from myself. And maybe that's part of becoming, learning how to stay connected without self-abandonment. Thank you for listening to the 4th episode of Brightly Becoming. If this truly resonated with you, I love if you left a comment below and shared a little bit about yourself and your own story. Just remember, you are not behind, you are still becoming. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.